Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to True Crime Voice for the Voiceless. My name is Maria. Do you believe this verdict was justice? Let me know in the comments below your opinion. Today, we're going to discuss the Sarah Boone Suitcase Trial and verdict. So let's get started. Sarah Boone was 42 years old when this happened. She was dating a gentleman that was 42 as well. His name was George Torres. They were known to have a pretty volatile relationship. There was allegations of domestic abuse. The authorities were called to the location quite often by Sarah. George was arrested numerous times, and I believe Sarah was arrested once. On this date, February 23rd of 2020, Sarah said that she was having a wonderful day with George. They were painting, doing puzzles, dancing with the dogs. And then all of a sudden, George decided he wanted to play hide and seek. So she stated that she went and hid, and then she came down the stairs and she's seen George getting into a suitcase. So she proceeded to zip him up in the suitcase. She said they were laughing and joking, and it was all fun. She stated that she went upstairs and she went and hid in the bathroom, and she waited and waited, and George never came up. So since they were drinking all day, she decided to go to her bedroom and lay down, and she said she passed out. She said she got up the next morning, and actually it wasn't really the next morning because she said she woke up around 11-ish. She laid in her bed and she came down the stairs, I guess around noon or so. And as she's coming down the stairs, she said she noticed the suitcase on the floor. So she stated she rushed to the suitcase, unzipped it, and got George out, laid him out on the floor, and started to do CPR. So Sarah called 911, and the 911 operator asked what happened. She stated what I just said, and the 911 operator was telling her how to do CPR. So she said she was doing CPR, but she kept talking, and the operator kept telling her, continue to do CPR, continue to do CPR. And she kept saying, he's purple, but he's purple, you know.
Tell me exactly what happened there.
My boyfriend and I were playing last night, and I put him in his case and we were playing, and like kind of hide and seek kind of thing. So I fell asleep, and I woke up, and he was dead in the suitcase. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
So the authorities finally show up, and unfortunately, George had passed away. They had Sarah stay outside, and they went inside, and they looked around and made sure everything was safe. So then once they started talking with Sarah outside, she proceeded to tell them the same thing. You know, they were playing hide and seek, and, you know, she went upstairs and she, you know, fell asleep. So she agreed to give the authorities her phone, and they took her phone. So a few days later, the detectives called her and told her that she could come to the station and pick up her phone. So they show an interrogation when Sarah's in the room with two detectives. They read her Miranda rights and let Sarah talk. So she goes on and on explaining the situation. She was talking about, you know, him and her and how they had just a wonderful day, and there was no issues that day. It was one of the best days I've had in a long time. And she just made it seem like everything was great that day. So the detective finally asked her the question, do you remember recording anything on your phone? And Sarah said no. So she leans up and she goes to open up the laptop she had in front of her, and she says, well, we found this on your phone. So they turn on the video, and it's a video showing Mr. Torres in the suitcase, and you could hear him saying, Sarah, I can't breathe. babe, I can't breathe. All of a sudden, the laptop turns black. She goes, and she acted odd because she didn't like freak out. She kind of looked at first at it, and then she goes, oh, your laptop's black. So the detective goes and she has to go get a different battery or something. And then when she's doing that, the other detective, a gentleman, was talking with Sarah. Once again, let her go on and talk and talk and talk. And she said the same things. Oh, everything was fine, this, that, and the other. And she said a lot of things that were kind of damning to herself. So the detective comes back and she has a laptop ready. And then Sarah states that she didn't want to watch it. And the detective says, well, you don't have to watch it, but then we'll just go by what we're seeing in here if you don't, want to watch it and tell us what's going on. So she decides to watch it. They turn it on and it was horrific. It's probably one of the worst things I've seen. It brought me to tears. It was really, really hard to watch because George Torres was in the suitcase and he was begging her to get him out. He was saying he couldn't breathe. Babe, I can't breathe. And she was taping him saying these things. And she was saying to him, that's how I feel when you choke me. That's how I feel when you cheat on me. And he's just, saying, Sarah, I can't breathe. Sarah, babe, I can't breathe. And she just went on and she mocked him and she laughed and it was horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying. So then apparently there was two videos because there was a second video and it was only a few seconds. And it was a close up of the suitcase on the floor. And you could hear George for the last time say, Sarah. Saddest thing I've ever seen. Um, Interesting thing, the detective started asking her, why was the suitcase in the first video where you're mocking him flipped over? So in other words, he's in the suitcase and the top of the suitcase is the part you unzip and open it up. So that's how it was in the first video. In the second video, when he said the last Sarah, the suitcase was upside down. So the top of the suitcase was on the floor and the bottom of the suitcase was on top. She said, oh, well, I flipped it over. She was all over the place. She kept changing her story, from I don't remember to all different things, one thing after another. But it wasn't intentional. It wasn't intentional. At some point, she literally got angry at the detectives. It wasn't intentional, and stuff. It was really a really hard thing to watch. Hard thing to watch. So it went on, and they talked, and they let her talk and just dig her grave, talk and talk and talk, and then she thought she was going to be leaving, and they informed her you're not going to be able to go, and so they arrested her, and then she freaked out, about the whole thing. So that brings us to this October. The trial didn't start till this year, October, about 2 weeks ago, because she was arrested and she went through numerous, not judges, numerous lawyers that they decided to quit or she fired them. And she was a hot mess. She was sending all these letters to the judge. I mean, long letters. At one point, she decided said she was going to represent herself. And that was very recent. She was going to represent herself. So then she started going to court and, they're doing all these proceedings and she doesn't know what she's doing, but she thinks she's smarter than everybody else. So at some point she realized she was in over her head. So she decided to write up this big letter and she put it out. I think it was on the internet or in the paper or something of that sort. And it was saying, would you like to be a lawyer, represent, blah, blah, blah. And this big, huge thing she wrote up. Well, somebody answered it. This gentleman answered it. He got a hold of Sarah. He talked to her on the phone. He's seen her in person. And from my understanding, him and her, at first it was not great because Sarah is a tough person, and she was like at him, but I think he realized how he could get her to trust him. So he decided that he was going to be her lawyer. And so she went back to court and let the judge know, okay, this is my lawyer. So he became her lawyer. He defended her. And he also had a bunch of friends that were lawyers that were helping him. So when the case started, she literally had, I think it was 4, maybe even 5 people on her side helping her, lawyers. So the case was supposed to last, the trial was supposed to last 3 weeks or so. But it was actually going very smoothly. I mean, it took a few days, almost a week to pick the jury, and then the trial started. It went by very good. The prosecutor came out, and his opening was just heartbreaking. And then he went up there, and another thing is she kept changing her story. First, it was an accident. She didn't remember what happened. It was not intentional. It was not intentional. As always, she kept saying this. But now that she had the lawyer, it all changed. Now it was a self-defense. Self-defense because she was a battered wife. They weren't married, but battered wife defense. And so that's where they went with it. So in the trial, her lawyer showed all these pictures of different things that had happened with her and Mr. Torres. They were horrified. I'm not going to lie. At one point, she was stabbed in the leg. She had bruises, under her eye. I mean, all these, they were horrible looking. They were horrific. But when you watch the full trial, you see what was really going on in this relationship. So Sarah kept taping things. So on her phone, there was numerous things that she taped. And she kept saying she taped stuff so that she could show everybody what George was doing to her. But when the prosecutor started doing his case, he started showing the videos, a lot of the videos. And they were so hard to watch, so hard to watch. There was one of Mr. Torres, and he was laying in a fetal position against the wall, asleep. She got up, she's taping him while she's saying all this stuff, and she's berating this man, berating him. It was so abusive. I mean, I literally cried watching it. It was really hard to watch. I've never seen someone, get treated so horribly. So that was just one video. There was numerous videos. And so it showed that they had a very volatile relationship. And honestly, it showed to me, in my personal opinion, was she was the aggressor. They drank way too much. Obviously, were alcoholics. And so you put all that together, and that's disastrous. So the trial went on and went back and forth, but I just feel like the prosecutors were spot on. They were just spot on. So she actually went on the stand, and she talked on the stand. And she said all these horrible things about George, and he did this, and he did that to her, and just all these different things. But a lot of stuff came out in the trial where she went and kicked him out of her apartment, her townhome, like she called it. And she got a restraining order against him. But then she kept calling him to come over. To go, she wanted, oh, I miss you. And she called him to come over. He'd go over, and then she called the police on him. It was just the craziest things I've ever seen. It was so abusive, so horrible. My opinion, my personal opinion. So anyways, she was on the stand. I didn't believe a word she said. I mean, when I seen all the pictures, I felt really bad for her with all that. But then when you see all the videos and you see what was really going on in this relationship, it was horrible. It was just horrible. I mean, I'm thankful for the videos, to be honest. Even though they're hard to watch, I'm thankful for them, because if it wasn't for the videos, she may have got away with him. So at the closing arguments, the prosecutor was spot on. He was so there was two prosecutors for the closing. There was a gentleman that did the closing, and then the main prosecutor that did most of the talking in the trial, he did the rebuttal closing at the end. There was one point when the prosecutor had the suitcase laying on the floor, and he had Sarah get off the stand and like unzip it, and she couldn't even get it to unzip. It just shows you, because she was saying, "Oh, I zipped him in, but I left a little space for him to get out." So another thing that came out in the trial that was just broke my heart was, it wasn't just that she zipped him in this suitcase and she let him literally smother to death, but there was neighbors that were on the stand, two gentlemen, and they both heard the same thing at the same time that night, and it sounded like their whole wall shook and everything. So it came out that the prosecutors believed that she pretty much threw him down the stairs in the suitcase. And then there was a bat, and she hit him with the bat. When the forensics came out, he had injuries to his head and different parts of the body. And when she went on the stand, she said that she was in fear for her life because he was yelling that he was going to come out and hurt her. And so she started poking him with the bat, and because she didn't want him to get out, is what she said. But like everything else, she taped everything. And if he would have been yelling at her and threatening her while he was in that suitcase, she would have taped it. But the facts are that she did not, because he did not. He was in there suffocating, begging for his life, while she laughed and mocked him. So at the end of the trial, they did their closing, and I felt like, once again, the prosecutors were spot on. Now, her lawyer, I feel like he tried his best. I do. I feel like they gave their all for her. They really did. But I feel like he was all over the place, and he kind of got on my nerves. But by that point, I had already made my decision. I didn't need to see the closing. And once you see all the videos and you see all the other evidence, I didn't need to hear them with the closing. And I did not. I don't know about anybody else. So the jury went to go deliberate, and it was quick. It was quick. They were deliberating for, I think, a little bit less than 2 hours. Now, there was 3 different things she could have gotten. She could get second-degree M. She could get manslaughter, and there was a third one. I don't remember it. A lower one. Also, I wanted to mention, at one point before the trial started, the prosecutors went to her and her lawyers and gave her an offer for a plea, and the plea was manslaughter. So she would have gotten like 22 years. But she said she wouldn't do that. She did want to do that. So she was informed by the judge, do you understand that if you go forward with this trial and you're found for second-degree M, you will get a minimum of 22 to life? And she said she wanted to do the trial. So the jurors came back a little shorter than 2 hours, and she was found guilty of second-degree M. When the judge polled the jurors, it was the most interesting thing I've ever seen. They went to each juror, and they only have 6 jurors. It's not like other places they have 12. They have 6 there. So anyways, they went from each juror and they asked, is this your verdict? Is this your verdict? The first one, the lady says, yes, this is my verdict. Second one, yes. The third one was a gentleman. You couldn't see it, but you could hear the voice. He came out fast. I mean, fast and harsh. Yes, this is my verdict. I mean, he out. And I mean, everybody was kind of shocked by that. It was just like, he was like, yes, this is my verdict. So that is what happened at the end of the case. I personally was very pleased with the prosecutors, very pleased with the verdict. So I would like to know what you guys think. Do you believe this verdict is just? Did you think this is justice for George Torres and his family? Please let me know in the comments below. I'd like to thank you for watching my channel, and please come back and watch some more. I'm going to do a video on the Menendez brothers and whether or not they should be released. So thank you so much for watching True Crime Voice for the Voiceless, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.